how timbre is affected across cultures. So, the original use of music, well, instruments in general, was for hunting. So, in the early days, hunters used flutes as almost like a death whistle to scare or to warn the other tribe members or animals. And as time progressed, uh, instruments started to evolve, and they became more complex patterns, and this eventually turned into music. So music now helps with the development of everyone. In 2005, 67% of people listened to music 18 hours on average a week, while in 2018, 93% on average listened to 25 hours of music a week. This shows the growing relevance of music in our culture. So, in music, we have something called timbre. Timbre is Timbre can be described as basically the root of music. It is a characterization of sound, which is why in the early days they used flutes for they used flutes to as a high-pitched noise to scare off other people. So the importance and gap of this is that we're becoming more aware of music preferences based on personal culture, and that research has not been done based on adolescence, and that it only covers musical elements as a factor for emotion. So then this brings us to the question of how does culture affect perception of timbre? So first we have to look at the expression of emotions through music. In music, emotion is a memory trigger. When we hear something, it tends to be emotion is attached to that sound. But however, because of this, music is subjective, and it can be looked at in any way. And then in Webster and Word's study, they found that while there was some agreement with emotional perception, there was not a complete agreement among all people. But how were these emotions coming out? So elements that contribute to the emotional perception were other things that attributed to their emotional perception was triggered by their different elements of such as tempo and mode. But it was also found that musical preferences, there was also a pattern within these musical preferences that were chosen based on other research. And then also the time of listening, there was less arousal because of prolonged sound audio. So when it comes to music interpretation, other than these musical elements, other outside factors such as culture were not looked at. The culture effects of music culture has been proven in a couple of research articles to be affected by culture. Well, in some research, they looked at how some culture was affected by. They looked at two different cultures and how each different music, the different cultures' music affected them. Some limitations of these were that was the way in which was in most articles, however, that we looked at previously for other musical elements, was that they did not look at outside factors such as gender or culture. So this brings us to our method. I'm doing a quantitative correlational study, which will be done through a survey on Google Forms, and there will be audio clips based on this. Of these audio clips, each one would be 10 seconds long, and there would be 16 total audio clips. there would be there would be four sections, and there would be four audio clips per section, each section relating to an emotion, and of these, there would be four questions with different instruments. These instruments would be the piano, violin, flute, and trumpet, each of which were chosen because they each represent a different family of music, such as brass, wind, percussion, and stringed instrument. So for the survey format, the first section was background questions. This asked for musical experience, race/ethnicity, preferred music genre, and age. And then sections 2 through 5 would be audio clips. As previously explained, there would be 4 questions per section, and there would be a different emotion represented in each instrument. For the audio, it was all recorded through Tonal's audio recorder, and audio was created using GarageBand to and recorded. Some problems, the reason why I used this was because there was a lot of errors and problems that came up when exporting the files for the audio. But the 4 emotions that were chosen were happiness, sadness, fear, and peacefulness. And then as listed on the screen, you can see each song that was chosen for each emotion. Test drive being happiness, it's been a long time, sadness, lacrimosa, fear, and peaceful. Can you hear the music? Peaceful was represented by peacefulness. Each of these were chosen based off the composer's intentional emotion for the music. Also, it was chosen because based on previous research, it was needed that the participants had known the song before, and that a problem with teenagers is that if I played classical music or something that they might not know, they would not have the same attention arousal. And then previous research, they purely chose based off of songs that were culturally relevant. So in my case, I chose songs from movies. So for recruiting, I emailed the survey to participants, and then I intended for 175 participants, since that was on average what each article had. And then I wanted students that were 14 to 18 that were male. So for the data processing, I would organize all of the data into spreadsheets from the Google form, and then I assessed the data for outliers. There were 2 of them, and this decision was made based on having only one answer for every single question, and then it was also organized as needed. So when it came to race and ethnicity, one of the questions that I asked, there was a small amount of Native Americans and Pacific Islanders, so I decided to combine the 2 groups and to form an other group to increase the numbers. And then after this, I split all the data into cultural categories. This included race/ethnicity, their musical experience, and then their age. And then data was compared to all these other categories. So when it came to the results, I was looking for a 50-50 for musical experience, and I just got about that. And then for age, it was pretty spread out. But for race and ethnicity, it turned out there was a high white turnout, which was anticipated due to the school that I surveyed. And then for music genre, which was also looked at, it was mostly hip hop. So when it came to the results of the intended emotion, it was the accuracy based on the intended answer was looked at, and here on the table you can see that it's split between experienced and novices, or with no musical experience, and then you can see the averages between all of them. And then as well as race slash ethnicity, they looked at, I looked at their percentages based on the instrument and the culture. And then for the emotional responses, there were 3 common answers, one of which was about a 50-50 answer, and then another was about an even spread, and then one was, as talked about in the literature review, a not fully. So for the discussion, the age, 17-year-olds had the highest accuracy, while 16-year-olds had the lowest accuracy. This could possibly be because 16-year-olds are now learning how to drive. So this could and then, well, for the average though, 14 to 15-year-olds were, 14 to 15-year-olds seem to be the average. For musical experience, there was about a 7% difference between experienced and non-experienced, except in Black culture, which had a 10% difference between all other cultures, which it had a 10% less accuracy than the rest. And then the same thing with and then something different also happened with 14-year-olds, whereas those that had experience had a 30% better accuracy than those that had no experience. And then for race and ethnicity, Asian and Hispanic demographic seemed to have the highest accuracy, and there was only a 0.1 difference between the two. While as previously explained, the Black demographic had a 10% less accuracy. So some limitations and implications was that the environment, it is not confirmed that everyone that took the survey was wearing headphones, and to do this, other research has been suggesting maybe going into a monitored room. But with teenagers, it would also be hard for them to come outside of school to sit in a room and do a survey with. And then the length of the audio clips, 10 seconds may be too short, and but at the same time, it is not tested to whether or not the attention arousal for teenagers was there. And then the song choice, instead of using classical music, like the rest, maybe the attention of those would be different. And then in conclusion, the proven factors were race / ethnicity, age, musical experience, and then research can be done with use of unfamiliar timbres or different environment, and then people can be more aware of how music they listen to influences mood.